Abel, you were a real estate agent back in 2008, and obviously now, for those people out there that are still a little cautious about realtors saying, hey, we're not in a crash, go buy. What do you want to tell those people? What is different from then till now, and what is your advice?
Yes, I understand the skepticism for sure, especially for someone who started in 2007 and literally had to learn to navigate the crash. No one wanted to talk to a realtor. They had very negative reputations just around the word realtor, right?
Yeah.
So you really had to be able to speak the truth to people. And that's kind of one of the things that it's carried throughout my career, is being honest with people. So going back to that question on why I don't think it's going to crash and what makes this market different than the last time. In 2008, the market was heavily saturated by inventory of distressed homes for sale, right? REOs, foreclosures, whatever you want to call them. People were not able to afford their homes when the market adjusted and the price and their loan payment adjusted, right? Because they all had adjustable rate mortgages. They never could have qualified to begin with. They didn't put any money down to buy the home. So they had very little skin in the game, as we used to say back then. So they were it was easy for them to just walk away. And then at some point, the government basically just came out and forgave all that stuff. In the beginning, it was harder because there was tax ramifications and things if you walked away from property. But eventually, everyone was just forgiven. So it made it really easy for people to just walk away from their home. So
one, they had to walk away. And two, it was easy for them because they didn't have that down payment.
Yeah. And it was a really wild time because so many banks were going out of business,
right?
Because they were invested heavily in the real estate mortgage market. They were holding all sorts of toxic assets that they couldn't even make the margin calls and things that they needed to do in order to stay afloat in business. They couldn't do it. So a lot of people, from what I saw in a very distressed market where I was, some people lived in their homes still 2 years, 3 years after, never made a payment because the bank had just simply lost the paperwork and didn't even know that house and we'll call it an asset at that time still existed.
Right.
So it was just a crazy time. It was chaotic. It was not anything the same where we're at today.
It's a fraudulent mortgage market, basically. Fraudulent mortgages started happening, and then they began to reap, unfortunately, the results of that situation, which is vastly different than now, where getting a loan is really, really hard. And, we're just not seeing anything like that now.
Right. And I mean, obviously, I understand there's going to be a lot of people that have a different opinion. That's fine. But money was relatively cheap these last few years to buy. So people were able to stretch their budgets further because the interest rate was so low. But what a lot of people, or maybe they do realize, but a lot of people don't understand is that there was a lot of movement throughout the country. And that was usually from people making more money, moving to somewhere else to go better their life. But they made more money than maybe the people that were living there.
Right.
We experienced that heavily here
absolutely.
Locally. People moving from more expensive real estate markets, thinking that our market was a bargain, and then driving up the price, willing to pay X amount of dollars over the asking price because they had the cash.
Right.
So again, people putting down large chunks of money or paying cash, or who were so well qualified they could afford it anyway.
Yeah.
Very different situation than what was experienced in 2008. Right. So that's probably the biggest factor on why this market is not the same thing.